Thank you for joining us on the Winning at Selling podcast. I'm Bill Hellkamp of Reach Development Systems, and with me is Professor Scott Plum of the Minnesota Sales Institute.
A common myth and reputation of salespeople is they are motivated by money and they don't care where it comes from. This is simply not true. More money will solve a lot of problems. However, success from a different type of motivation can bring more joy than money. Hold on to your wallets as Bill and I discuss Are You Too Money Motivated? And other great ideas on episode 481 of the Winning at Selling podcast.
Well, before we get talking about money.
I got a confession to make.
Yeah,
Bill,
what's that?
You
Did you talk about money to somebody?
No, I didn't talk about money, but I got to talk to all of our faithful, loyal listeners. I have a confession to make.
Okay.
Yesterday, I did a presentation for the International Supply Chain Management Group, the Minnesota chapter, and these were a room full of purchasing agents. There was 100 of them, and it was on negotiations, and it was. I was sharing them some secrets that I've shared with our listeners. So hopefully everybody's going to be a little bit more engaged in the conversation to gather information. As I've said about negotiations before, it's all about gathering information. And I opened up my presentation with, I'm kind of curious, what is it about salespeople that frustrates you the most? And one guy raised his hand. He goes, they cannot answer a question. And I said, wonderful. That's called reversing. And I'm really glad that they're applying that. And the reason for that is they want to find the intent behind the content. They want to find out, why are you asking them that question? Why are you asking them that question now? Why is that important to you? Is that motivating you to make a change so that they want to understand your intent? That's a professional salesperson. That's what they really want to do, is work with you to share information. So please forgive me, faithful, loyal listeners, for sharing information with the other side.
Okay, and we don't have time for our book topic today because Scott got talking about his. Started doing a preaching session. Brother, we're on to you.
Okay.
All right. Well, we're on to habit 4. Think win-win, and I believe in this concept. But it was interesting, Scott, as I read this. I do think that I'm very competitive. So how do we put a competitive nature into a win-win, and how do we create a win-win situation? And I think Covey really describes how important this is to have the win-win, because we want this mutual benefit. And I think it's really important for salespeople, especially if they want to have a sale happen again and again, and they want a long-term client. If you get into a win-lose situation, the clients aren't going to be very happy if they don't feel that they got more value than the money they spent. Mm-hmm. So what are some of your thoughts on this win-win?
I really like the idea. I was really intrigued by this chapter because of the title, obviously, but is intrigued with the loss win too, or lose win.
Well, let's go over the 6 different types of interactions. Win-win, where we both win. Win-lose, where I win and the other person loses. A lose-win, where I kind of roll over. I'm a doormat. I take it all and I'll just lose. Mm-hmm. Lose-lose, where nobody's happy. A win, that one's kind of hard to say. How's that different from win-win? And then win or no deal, which I think we want to talk a little bit about, because I think that's a new idea that I hadn't dealt with very much.
Yeah. And there was a great outcome and a great story associated with that one. But they're all really good. I think the win is when you're not really negotiating with something, but maybe you would apply for something and it passes and you get approved. Okay, right. Great. Okay. It's a win, Okay. I take the real estate exam. Great. I pass. I win.
I win, and nobody loses, but
nobody loses.
Passed, I'd have lost. So
yeah, right.
I guess loss should be under there too.
It could be.
Lose should be there. Right?
It could very well be.
I took plenty of tests and lost. So but it was interesting. The win-lose is really the authoritative approach, and this is where people use power and position, possessions, credentials, and personality to win. And the example that the author uses, this is the educational system where people are graded on a curve. Yeah, he didn't like the educational system any more than I do.
Right. Totally agree.
It's a failure system, I think, that we teach in this country, but that's all right.
Yeah. And interesting enough, it kind of ties in with our topic later on in the show, but the education system is no intrinsic value. Everyone is extrinsically defined.
Well, then that's, as you said, if they're graded on the curve, That means we're going to stick X number of people in at C's, and then the ones that beat them are B's, and the ones that don't beat them are D's, right? And then the very far edges. And what's kind of crazy, one of the things I've learned in training where I have done tests or quizzes in the past is I've used them to say whether I'm teaching well or not.
Sure.
Wow. And I've never heard that in my school system.
Right.
If everybody failed your test, it isn't everybody.
Exactly.
Professor, it's you. And so to grade people on the curve just says, I have no idea whether I'm teaching well or not, or whether I'm getting to my students, getting them invigorated to learn. So we'll just stick this in here, and whoever kind of is in the middle, they'll get a C. Well, that's dumb.
Yeah. I think the only thing that should be graded on a curve is a golf tournament. That's graded on a curve.
Well, the people ask me if I play golf, and I tell them I own clubs, so that's a very different thing.
I say I go hunting.
There you go.
Sometimes that's golf for me. It's hunting for my ball.
That's right. So let's talk about the win-win and the win no deal. So win-win is the goal is really for both of us to come out feeling that we did well, that we got what we needed, that we got what we wanted out of the situation. And I do think that's what we're trying to do in sales is we want to come out where we make money on the deal, and you feel that you're going to do better as an organization because of what we gave you, whether it's services or whether it's a product. You're going to make more money because you did business with us than if you did it with someone else.
Yeah. And we're obviously talking about a topic that involves negotiations. And I think a lot of salespeople, if they feel like it's a win-win and they feel like their price was attacked and they had to lower their price, but they're okay with that. And they'll go, well, we'll make it up somewhere later. If you have that mentality, you're really accepting a win-lose situation. And I think if it's important to make a win-win important in that you're asking for something in return for the concessions that you offered. You're exchanging something, and it might be a recommendation. Right. It might be a recommendation or a testimonial that comes back to you also. But asking for it in the beginning, upfront, is really going to prevent a certain resentment that you may carry, or that you're going to get even with them later when the opportunity arises.
Well, and you talked about dropping your price. You know, anytime we as a salesperson drops our price below what maybe a predetermined amount that we were ready to wiggle with, we feel like we lost.
Right,
and
exactly.
It's because we don't know how to sell well quite often. I believe that we lose our price, or that we drop our price, or we're just looking for the most expedient situation. There's nothing like the end of the month push to cause a salesperson to start to drop their price. And then the boss, you know, he or she is happy that you made a sale, and then they'll come down on you on the second week of the year that your profitability wasn't high enough. So be careful, sales managers, what you ask for at that end of that month as you're trying to manipulate the system to get that last couple of deals in.
And when you're trading something, you're maintaining value. If you're just cutting your price, you're offering a concession. And what's happening to the value is the value decreases with the price that the prospect pays. So maintain the value by asking for something in replacement of the concessions. A video testimonial is great. A LinkedIn recommendation for salespeople that are calling on prospects, and prospects are always looking for, could you give me some references? I go, well, I've got 56 LinkedIn testimonials. You might know some of those people. Please look at my LinkedIn profile. Let's get connected. And then you can give your feedback too on a recommendation, and vice versa.
Let's talk a little bit about this win no deal situation and what he talked about in that. And I hadn't really thought about this before. But to actively look at a situation and pre-play that if you can't come to a decision, that's okay. We'll both walk away knowing that a decision couldn't be made here. How do salespeople feel about that one?
It's a great question. I think that they might feel like if there was no deal that they lost. Well, what did you really lose? Because you didn't commit the time and energy and resources to something that was not beneficial to you. You may, in fact, even lose money on the deal if you said yes to it. You got to a point where there wasn't enough value exchanged in order to make it worth your while. So you really won because you didn't take a deal that was going to turn south on you, or it wasn't a perfect fit. would be my answer. Bill, what would you have?
Well, I don't want to step on our conversation, and this is, I think, where our topic today, are you too money motivated, can come in. But quite often, salespeople don't care about the profitability after the sale, whether the sale is good, whether the sale works out well, because they're not the one that has to nurse it along and make it happen. And so if you're in a situation where, again, you're only thinking about what I need, I want to get this deal closed, then you may go into a deal that's no good. One of the things that I talk to my students about as far as sales is concerned is, if you sell to someone who doesn't value the same things that you value, maybe quality is a value of your company, or on time delivery, or whatever keeps your price up, whatever if they don't value those things and you sell to them, you're going to be in trouble all the time, because they're never going to appreciate the things that you're bringing to the table. And you're going to have a bad deal because you and the customer don't value the same things. And now you're going to be at odds all the time. And as you said, it's going to cost you more in the long run to have that kind of a deal. But if the salesperson is separated from the account management too far, they may not care about that as much.
And that's called a precedent in negotiations, is when their prospect buys it at a lower price, they're setting a precedent. They're always going to expect the lower price from you in the future. And there just needs to be a better way to deal with that. And there are different options on doing that. And I don't think Bill and I are going to get into that today, but you can see it happening when you're selling it at a lower price in the beginning.
Now, I want to talk about the 5 dimensions of the win-win as we close this up. So I thought they were very important. I really like the character one a lot. And in order to have a win-win, there are 3 things that have to be there. One, you have to have integrity, meaning that you're someone who's honest and are dealing with this person honestly, because if you're not honest, it's going to be found out. The second one is maturity. And that's the balance between courage and consideration. I thought that was really interesting, that we have to be courageous in what we say, a challenger sale, but we also have to be considerate of their feelings and their beliefs. So maturity is that balance between those things. And then we also have to have an abundance mentality. And that's not somebody who thinks there's only so much slice in the pie and I've got to get mine before it's all gone. If you don't see the world in abundance, you're going to try and take advantage of other people. And so integrity, maturity, and abundance mentality combine to give you character that you must have in order to be looking for the win-win.
And he talks the most about the abundance mentality and the personal joy, satisfaction, and fulfillment of habits 1, 2, and 3. And he really talks about the public victory does not mean victory over other people. It means success and effective interaction that brings a mutual beneficial results to everyone involved. And that's what we covered on habits 1, 2, and 3.
And that's what our goal is to move toward what? Interdependence.
Yes.
From independence to interdependence. And that's why the win-win is such an important part of the interdependence. If we're not both winning, we can't be interdependent on one another. The second piece was on relationships and how important trust is to this process of finding a win-win, that I will have to believe you in some case, or you will have to believe me. There will have to be some level of trust built. And I know we've talked a lot about that in sales, right, how important that is with the little things that you do that build trust so that the big decision can be made later. And that might be when you say, I'm going to send you something, I send you something. When I say I'm going to call you back, I'm going to call you back. When I say I'm going to connect with you on LinkedIn, I'm going to connect with you on LinkedIn. All of those are little pieces that say our trust is building.
Yeah, I like this is out of the book. Without trust, the best thing that you can do is compromise. Without trust, we lack credibility for open mutual learning and communication and real creativity, which, is way of looking at options and exploring options on how we can come upon a deal together that is a win-win.
It reminds me of a story to tell real quickly. These people were in a situation that they had one orange and both people wanted the orange in order to do something with it. And they were fighting over the orange and who got the orange, and a third party came in and said, well, wait a minute, what do you want to use the orange for? And he said, well, I want the juice of the orange to make orange juice. And the other person said, I want the rind of the orange in order to make a cake. And if they just talked a little bit, they would have found that they could both get everything they wanted out of the orange. It wasn't a limited situation. It was unlimited because they didn't need the same thing out of the orange. And I think that's where we, instead of compromising, we cut the orange in half and each get half of not enough of what we need,
right,
instead of talking, and we could both get everything we need if we find a way to not to compromise, but to cooperate.
Yeah, value is defined by different people, and they might not find the same value in the same items. It's a great example.
All right, let's go through the last three. Agreement, that has a desired results, guidelines, resources, accountability, and consequences. And of course, that's in our proposal or in our final contract. We want those things spelled out so that we don't have disagreements later, because we both knew what to expect. And I think that's important in a good relationship, in order to that we spell those things out so that the relationship can move forward and we can be trusted with each other.
Mm-hmm. And number 4 is supportive system. Can only survive when systems support it.
The win-win.
Often the problem is in the system, not the people.
Yeah.
And I always say, you need to lead people. You need to manage the process, manage the system, but lead people.
Well, he's told a story right at the beginning that talked about that he had a company he was working with, and they said, we're a cooperative company. We're looking for ways to work more effectively together. And he started to look around the office, and there was a sales contest going on that only one person was going to win a trip to the Bahamas or whatever. And what he was saying was, you say you're cooperative, but then you put a system in place, this contest that pits salespeople against one another. Mm-hmm. And now there's confusion in what you're really meaning.
Right. Bad system.
Yeah. And then that number 5 was the processes as well. The things that work together. What is your process? How does your system work at your organization? Does it lead to the win-win, or is it, again, a non-cooperative system at its base? Mm-hmm. So good book.
Yeah, very good.
Yep. I'm looking forward to chapter 5 and 6 and habit 5, 6, and 7. And these are going a little bit faster now. So
yeah, they are smaller chapters.
Yep.
Still good content. This segment has been brought to you by the Jumpstart Sales Coaching Program, presented by your host of the Winning at Selling podcast. Every professional athlete has a coach, someone to assist and advise. Tiger Woods had 4 swing coaches so that he could stay at the top of his game. What would you like to improve or overcome in the next year? Perhaps as a salesperson, you want to be more productive with your prospecting, overcoming objections, or delivering more effective presentations. As a sales manager, you want to create a spark within your sales team with a new message, a refreshed approach to starting new conversations with prospects, or you are looking for market-ready strategies to increase revenue and shorten the sales cycle with your existing team. Or as a business leader, you want to transform the sales culture and your value proposition for the new marketplace. Whatever your reason, this is the perfect time to engage with an experienced sales coach. That is why your hosts of Winning at Selling podcast, Professor Scott Plum and Bill Hellkamp, have developed the Jumpstart Sales Coaching Program. Now you can receive personal coaching from the same sales professionals you enjoy on this podcast. It all starts with a discussion to give us insights into your specific goals, challenges, needs, and motivation. Go to winningatselling.com to contact Bill or Scott about the Jumpstart Sales Coaching Program. Do you believe you deserve better results? Now is the time to invest in yourself, your people, and your customers, and invest in your future. So our topic today is on, are you too money motivated? And there was an assessment used some time ago that measured your money motivation of a salesperson. And if you didn't score very high in it, you suffered from what they called a money motivation weakness. They have since changed the algorithm. So they have found that is not necessarily beneficial for a company. And I'll just share right up front, when people are motivated by money, they're going to take shortcuts. They're going to come to your company and work with you to make more money, and they're going to leave you to make more money.
I see this all the time with people who say, we did a sales contest, and when they did the contest, all they sold was the things that would win them the contest.
Right. Of course.
Yes.
Reward the behavior you want to instill.
That's right.
But there's other ways of doing that. What are some of the drawbacks you see, Bill, of the money weakness, the money motivation weakness?
Well, I think, as you said, I think people take shortcuts. They may be deceptive. They may stretch the truth a little bit, and they might cut the prices again if they're not necessarily judged on the value that they bring to the organization, but only on the sales totals that they do. So if I'm only judged on sales totals and not on profitability, I don't always care what the profitability is.
Yeah.
So I think when I look at money by itself and people who are very money motivated, I think they can abuse the customer sometime.
Yeah. And they take shortcuts. And I think if salespeople
short-term too, they're short-term thinkers.
They're short-termers. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And you can kind of see them when they're coming into a company going, oh boy, I don't know how long they're going to be here. And you can kind of see the reputation just based on their actions that they've left behind and how people would describe them in their absence.
The wake of destruction.
Right. And I believe that if salespeople commit to two things, and that is developing an expertise, really understanding your customers, your industry, and your product and service, and a commitment to achievement of succeeding at an accomplishment of monthly goals or weekly goals, success and money will follow.
Yeah, it all ties in, and I think it ties in so well to the discussion of the win-win. Are you the type of person who's looking for both you and the customer to be satisfied with the deal? Or are you looking to take advantage of the customer? Or worse, are you a doormat that will just drop and do whatever the customer wants to do? I don't believe in the customer is always right. The customer always thinks they're right.
Right.
But sometimes we have to negotiate and we have to work through that, and we have to be honest partners with one another in order to both get the respect that we deserve. So I think you need to be really careful if you are the sort of person that doesn't look for the win-win. If competition is all you believe in and all the competition fires you up and I have to beat everybody on the sales team, there's a certain value to that, but it's got to be balanced with a thoughtfulness toward the customer and the company and what we're trying to really do here.
Yeah. There's two basic primary motivations that salespeople have, and that is the intrinsic motivation, which is a good motivation. This is the favorable one. It involves doing something because it's personally rewarding to you, sourced by an internal desire, self-respect, and personal integrity. And that is doing a good thing for a good person and making a good deal at a good value. And that's the foundation of the intrinsic motivation. The other is the extrinsic motivation, which involves doing something because you want to earn an external reward, money, or to avoid punishment. The drawback of the external motivation is that salespeople set themselves up for the carrot and the stick type of management style, because management is really asking themselves, what am I willing to tolerate? And if you're not going to do something unless I'm beating you with a stick, I'm going to beat you with a stick. If you're not going to do something unless I give you a carrot, then I'm going to have to give you a carrot. But there's going to be a point where I'm going to run out of carrots and I'm just going to keep using the stick.
Well, I can see what you're saying there, but I don't agree totally with your assessment. I think either intrinsic or extrinsic motivation can be evil if it is based on evil. I know people that have an intrinsic motivation that is fear-based. This is something coming from within them and that's what intrinsic means. It's internal, and they're afraid. They're afraid of losing, or they're afraid of looking stupid, and so they make decisions that are unwarranted because of this great fear that they have. Same with extrinsic. If I am so money motivated that I'll do anything for it, then it's evil. But money is not an evil thing, or the desire for money isn't an evil thing until it's taken to the extent where I make decisions that are poor. I know plenty of people who've been very successful because they've built their empire on a dream or a goal that they've had. And that dream or that goal has kept them doing the right thing because they know that doing the right thing is going to get them what they want. So I don't think that either of these has an evilness or a value to it. It just kind of depends on how you're wired. But when you take it too far and you start to do things that are wrong, then I think then you're too motivated, whether it's by money, fear, whatever, desire. All those things can be taken too far and then become out of whack.
Yeah. I was listening to a program put on by Scott Welly, another great speaker and sales trainer, and he asked the question, "Who needs you to be more motivated?" And that really caught me an intriguing question, because sometimes we're generally motivated to do something for somebody else than we are ourselves.
Right.
And I think this is like the shoemaker's kid too.
Well,
is that?
Yeah, I think most people are. I think you look at people that you know in our business community, how many people are stuck in jobs that they don't really like, but they're willing to put up with it because they're too afraid to do something different.
Sure, that's true. Very true.
And I talk to people all the time. Oh, I hate my job. We'll do something else. Oh, I don't want to go out and look for another job. So it's the old dog laying on the nail. He barks about it all the time, but it doesn't hurt him enough to get up and move.
Right.
And I deal with this all the time with people. Get out of that job. It's the same with if you work for a company that doesn't value what you value. Get out of that job. You're never going to be happy working for a company that doesn't have the same set of values. There's plenty of them. We're going into the Great Reset. People are looking. What's the number? 47% I saw of people are looking for another job right now. I just read some numbers on that. 47% are open to looking for another job. Will they do it? Will they pull the trigger? I don't know. But we're looking at this situation where people are very, very open to making this move because the companies are not treating them well.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Or they're confused or whatever.
Yep.
So anyway, I think about, you were talking about intrinsic and extrinsic. I think Maslow's hierarchy of needs always comes in to what we're doing, right? We have psychological needs, the need to be accepted, the need to get along with other people. We have safety needs, right? We have love and belonging needs, esteem needs. I want to be the best at things. And then self-actualization, which you get into when you start talking about, self-esteem sort of things. So money's in there somewhere. Money is nothing but a scorecard or an opportunity to have something. It's what the money will do for us.
Right.
So when we talk about money, it's not even the money itself. I don't have a Scrooge McDuck vault where I go roll around in money. But I do have things that I want to do with that money. And those fall into that, safety and that love and belonging and that, safe home and a safe neighborhood. And, those are things that we want as we want to eat. My family really likes to eat. So, so it's what the money will do for us, not the money itself. Do you remember, did you ever get taught on the drill down in sales to people say, I want to do this. And you say, well, what would you want to do it for? Well, because I'll get promoted. And what do you do if you get promoted? Well, I won't have to work as hard, right? It's that drill down that says, where is this really from a psychological standpoint? Can we make this more firm to make this decision? Because you'll feel better in the long run about whatever you do. So
it's getting to that emotional motivation.
There you go. That's the term for it. Any other things on the money motivated for you?
No, I think it was a great topic.
Yeah, I think it's good. And again, it just seems to fall in line with where we are in the book. I think that my final thoughts, just don't be tempted to cut corners in order to make money. Be true to what is true for you in the organization and what you're really trying to do. And be careful when you're under stress, because stress can cause poor decision making.
Very true.
Yep. I do have a resource. It's really not tied in directly to this. It's using Cialdini's 6 Principles of Influence article. But I think it's, if you're tempted to use half truth, let's say, as a way to get a sale, maybe using one of these principles of influence can be a better way to deal with it, in a more honest way to be more influential. I have a golden nugget today from G.K. Nielsen. Successful people are not gifted. They just work hard, then succeed on purpose. The old the the harder I work, the luckier I get, sort of idea.
That's true too. But sometimes it is a gift. I think we are blessed with certain gifts and certain talents. And
absolutely. Yeah. Play to those talents rather than try to do something that you're totally untalented at.
Right. I think of the board of education for all the animals in the forest. They all get together and they go, we need to create a board of education so that we're all cross-trained on different skills that we have. And of course, the bird fails at swimming and the fish fails at flying, so we have to look at our skills too and our gifts and concentrate on our strengths and manage our weaknesses. But I don't disagree with the quote. It certainly has a lot of truth to it at the same time.
All right. Where can they go to find more information?
winningatselling.com. Hopefully it's bookmarked on your browser, because everything that we talked about today is available on that webpage.
And next week, our book club will go into habit 5 of 7 habits of highly effective people. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. And our guest, we have a guest again. We love having a guest. You might have to help me with the last name. Kristen
Terezewski. No, Christian
Terezewski. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Kristen Terezewski, and she's going to talk about gamification.
It's French.
It sounds French to me too. Go out and get better one skill at a time.
Joyful selling.